One of my favorite, probably my favorite business topic is e-commerce and innovation in e-commerce. And I'm so excited about this because, frankly, I felt like the last 5 years there was not necessarily the type of innovation, that excited me in the e-commerce and retail space. So thank you for being here. Just to raise a show of hands quick, how many folks have used AI engines or apps for product research, product discovery so far? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I was like, we are in the wrong place.
Yeah.
Wow. How about actually checking out and buying something within an AI app? Okay, I see wow. All right, more than I thought, pretty cool. Sven, we're gonna start with you and the one non-AI native company up here. You're CTO of Gap. I'm curious, Gap's been undergoing sort of a transformation over the last couple of years under a new CEO, and I'm curious how you are making decisions about where to lean in to AI experiences, whether it's Julie's Daydream, Dmitry's Perplexity, or others on your own site, and what doesn't make sense?
Yeah, I mean, for a company like ours, we have a lot happening with AI. It's not just the customer-facing side, obviously. Everything from enabling every employee with capabilities and training them up and developing them to optimizing processes like, sketch to render or content generation for the website, et cetera, to reinventing our whole product lifecycle with AI. But when it comes to the customer-facing side, we really focus on listening to our customers and figuring out where they're at. Because I think the interesting thing with AI right now is there's so many viable things you can do with it, but that doesn't mean they're valuable, especially not to the customer. And I think that's the key balance point we have to kind of make right now is we don't want to get kitschy in the experiences. We want to make sure that we're creating AI capabilities that really resonate with our customers and really create a much better experience for them to flow through our channels and experience our products.
So for example, you're not overnight changing the search function of your site to become super conversational. Am I right about that? Are you not seeing that kind of demand from?
Yeah, what we found is, especially for fashion, I think fashion is still, it's still a bit of a sport, fashion shopping, and it's very much of a visual experience. And what we're finding is that customers on the site really are getting much more value out of personalization, recommendations, size kind of capabilities with AI, trend-based renderings and curation. So those kinds of experiences. And then what we're finding also is they're exploring in different places. And so for us, we want to make sure we're meeting our customers where they are. And so they're obviously exploring on the Perplexities, the Daydreams, the OpenAIs, et cetera. So we want to make sure we're there as well. But when they come to our experience, that it's on trend and on brand, and that's really the Gap experience that they're looking for.
I'm going to come back to a couple of things you said, but Dmitry, I just want to get to you for a second. So Perplexity was was early in terms of offering sort of a distinct product research related customer experience with, if I'm describing it wrong, you can tell me, but essentially, a more distinct shopping-like layout of product recommendations. Are you looking at that as a differentiator from the other AI engines and apps, or do you think this is table stakes for a horizontal player like yours to be providing sort of shopping research and transaction capabilities on your site?
Yeah, what we've learned in building products for commerce is it's actually back to the basics. The answer is the most important part. And so that really plays to our strengths around accuracy, having the best search infrastructure and engine built for interaction with AI. Simplifying the rest of the transaction is a great add-on, but it's irrelevant if the quality of the answer is subpar. And when I wake up thinking about what we're going to do for commerce today, the first and second priority is always what can we do to up the quality of the answer, and part of that is making it, I think where the next frontier is personalized, like using a user's memory and having the quality of the answer, be different for every user, taking into account what we know about them, how they've used Perplexity in the past.
How are you? Yeah, I was going to ask, how are you making the recommendations on products that when someone is doing research right now? Because I think a year ago, I think I talked to your founder, and I think he gave me at the time, which was a pretty candid answer, was like, we're not always exactly sure how the recommendation, why it's choosing A over B product or brand. I'm assuming brands want to know that and how best to show up. So I'm curious, if there's any sort of evolution there on the why and the signals that make sense.
Yeah, we look at so many different signals that you can't just reduce it to one core trait. And I actually think that is a feature, not a bug, in that it then becomes impossible to gamify how you show up in a Perplexity answer. And I think this is where a lot of traditional search went sideways. Is the SEO game? It just broke trust in what you were seeing on the results page, and preserving trust, particularly as AI gets more powerful and more intelligent. Trust is going to be the most scarce asset, and we're going to really focus on preserving that.
Julie, so you're building a AI native fashion marketplace. Is that a fair?
Fashion search engine. Yes.
Okay, fashion search engine. I'm curious how you think about competing against a Perplexity, a ChatGPT that have, much more organic demand, and where you fit in and how you build enough of a presence in the marketplace to attract people who may start their product discovery now on a Perplexity, on a ChatGPT.
Yeah. Well, our theory is that these horizontal players will be good at a lot of things, and maybe some of the spec-based product categories, like electronics and hair dryers, they will be great at. I did a search for a hair dryer that works best for, frizzy hair that you want to straighten. And you can look through, if you think about that.
That was for me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right.
And the idea of being able to go through all the reviews to figure out which of those gets the highest review among that kind of user, super informative. Fashion is an entirely different category. And so our belief is that if you want to do fashion well, you need to really focus on it vertically. And so it's a combination of, what I would say, having all the right brands and retailers as part of the network, being able to understand what users are asking for. So whether they're starting with a chat or with a photo, really understanding those pieces of it, understanding the user's preferences, so understanding their price point and their style preferences, and being able to translate the words that consumers are using to words that match the description of the product, which is not how the product is written today. So if you look at the way merchants describe their products, a lot of the things that people are looking for are not necessarily in that description. So we enrich our understanding of this massive catalog of products so that we can sort of find those matches more effectively. And the way that we are built, we're still very early days, we're still in beta, but the way we think about it is you're not just looking for a sort of putting out a request and looking for a product. So I'm looking for a strapless wedding dress to go to a wedding in Mexico City, and I want it in red tones. That's the kind of thing where you can't ask that in any other normal environment. And you can ask that, and you get great results if you're on Daydream. And then you may find that, oh, these are too expensive, I want to go a little bit lower price. Or, oh, these are mini dresses, and I really want a midi dress. And you can start to find the product you want, and you can pivot on an image. And so the truth is, for fashion, it's a combination of pictures and words that help you get to what you want. And so I just think the way that not only you're training the data, but also and the agent, but also the sort of way you've built an experience to work well in this domain are quite different. So we believe that there's a real value proposition to focusing on this vertical.
Just on fashion. If we have questions from the audience, please let me know or start thinking about them. I'll come back to you. I want to get back to Gap for a second, and I'm curious how you think about the role of a brand in this world where it seems like in some ways, the customer journey or the shopping funnel, whatever you want to call it, is getting collapsed in some cases from, beginnings of research to then directional, narrowing down to maybe even a transaction happening off platform on another platform. How do you think about, curious if or how what the brand means or should represent changes during this time?
I think the brand is our superpower in this time. I think it's, for fashion, it's very much a key aspect of it, right? Our business is really still a human-to-human business. It's humans creating great products that are on trend, that are relevant for our human customers. And I think AI is helping us accelerate the time from, that it takes from people to have brand love to find exactly what they want in the brand. And so I really think that as we continue to evolve the company and our 4 brands, that really, it really resonates. And what our job, I think, is again, listening to the customers and figuring out what are the points of pain in the cycle that we can condense down and consolidate and speed up with AI so that they can get to the products that they really love much faster.
I'm curious in your conversations, Dmitry, over the past year or so with retailers and brands, what advice, if any, have you been giving on sort of the best way to turn up well in an AI engine? I know we talked about SEO a little bit, right? And now there's this whole space called, whether it's AEO or GEO, essentially the next generation, right, of how to show up well. There's a lot of excitement in that space. There's also a lot of criticism because of how many companies are selling, an offering that not everyone is convinced works. And so that's sort of long context for what advice or guidance are you giving to retailers and brands?
I think the foundational advice is create products that people love. Because ultimately, Perplexity looks at authentic, high quality sources, whether that be user reviews or earned media from reputable sources, and that is the primary input into generating the answer. And so I think brands that have been underinvested in earned media, I think will actually be disproportionately hurt by this phase shift. But the harder the signal is to artificially activate, the more valuable it is in a answer engine context, right? So there's I share the skepticism around these AEO, GEO tools because they give you a lot of analytics, but they're not actionable. And they're certainly not easily actionable. And it's really what was being said about people have to love your brand. And that's to come from authentic engagement with the product. And that's what creates success in answer engines.
Do we have any questions from the audience? One up here. Oh, sorry, one back here, and then we'll get to you. Just tell us who you are and who you're with.
Hey, okay. Hey, Jason, thank you for the panel. It's Nasreen. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Vernique. We are an AI native company serving very much commerce enterprises, Fortune 500 retailers. So I know the topic of the conversation here is, of course, the digital side. But I have a question for Sven on the actual brick and mortar side of things. So we are talking about the future of commerce, and the reality is 92% of grocery shopping is still in brick and mortar. One can say 60 to 70% of apparel shopping is happening in the real world and in brick and mortar. So how do you envision the consumer behavior shift on the brick and mortar side of things as you grow in this journey?
Yeah, I think what we're actually seeing is that people are wanting to go back to stores, especially in the fashion space. I think there's been a long period of time of people being very deeply engaged with digital and digital only. And there's a resurgence of human-to-human interactions. And I almost think that AI is actually driving a bit of that because there is there's lots of press on both sides of the utopian aisle and the dystopian aisle out there about what the future holds. And I think it naturally drives a desire for camaraderie. But we are seeing really unique opportunities with AI to optimize store experiences and create better experiences in stores. I think, if I look back at kind of how things evolved, if you think about 20 years ago, it was all about in-store. It was all about a personal interaction. It was all about seeing what customers did. We moved to digital, and we created data and analytics and insights and testing and personalization to recreate those experiences. And now we're seeing this shift back to having a layer of spatial awareness in the stores that we can start creating some of those experiences and really measure, whether it's RFID, always on RFID, or whether it's dressing room experiences with tools that know what's going on in the dressing room, or traffic, kind of visibility tools, and understanding how products are moving in the stores. It really creates a whole ecosystem of capabilities that we just didn't have 10 years ago. And so I'm confident that people are wanting to go back into the stores, and now we have to figure out the most relevant and exciting experiences for them when they're in the stores.
I think we had, do you have a question up here?
A follow-on, really.
Sure. Just tell us who you are. There's a mic right here.
Yeah, Rick Chavey with Viax. So a follow-on to that one, and for all the panel really is, can you do the one-to-one personalization in that context that Nazreen just asked you about? Or do you have to think about it more in terms of groups or clusters of these shoppers behave this way in the physical store? Because you can't redesign the adjacencies. And is there a play also on your side of things of attracting the person online to go to like the Gap?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this in-store, eventually I think one-to-one interaction will happen, and I think you see the evolution of it. But if you go into our dressing room here in the Marina at the Old Navy store, at the Gap store that we just launched, and you go into the dressing room, you have a one-on-one experience in the room. The dressing room knows what you bring in. It knows what other products to recommend. It allows you to say, hey, I grabbed the wrong size. Can somebody bring me a large or a small? So we can create those experiences. It's not like Minority Report where you walk in and every interaction is completely unique to Tom Cruise. It's really, again, the viability versus value. It's where is it valuable to the customer, and where does it create an experience that really deepens their engagement with the brand and with the products.
And you could empower the sales associate too, right? You could imagine a sales associate with an iPad that is based off of the little context they have on that customer. What are like 5 really interesting suggestions? And you still have the sales associate applying their judgment on the things the iPad won't have visibility into. So it's not just, I think there's ways to bring AI, not just in terms of a consumer on their device.
It's interesting, though. I'm going to actually go back in history. So I was at Sephora for about 8 years, and I was in charge of all things digital. And so we did a ton of testing in the store. We also had our loyalty program, Beauty Insider. And what we found was that when the sales associate had a device, it kind of interfered with their ability to just have a conversation with the customer, find out quickly and efficiently what they're looking for and what the context is, and help them find the product. So we actually went from testing and using devices to sort of backing off and using fewer devices, and making sure the training of our associates was good enough that in human sort of that human connection could be both educational and just, I would say more natural and quicker. And it's not to say there isn't role for technology in the store. There certainly is, and I think one of the best use cases actually of technology in the store, I remember probably 15 years ago with a Gap, where I was in the Gap store, and there was a product that I loved, and they didn't have my size, and they said, no problem, we'll order it for you from the site, and it'll ship to your house. And I mean, it's funny how some things haven't changed that much in terms of what a physical store. The biggest thing I would do if I ran a physical store today is I would put a sofa with a TV that has the NFL.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why that's not more common. It would be the only way I could get my husband to spend time shopping with me.
Do you want to fund my new company? Doing that. I did want to ask, one other impact on physical stores I've thought of, and maybe it'll be fringe case, but you know, I was on my favorite social network, LinkedIn. Yes, I say that like I'm embarrassed to say it, but and you know, someone was laying out. They'd done shopping research on. It wasn't Perplexity. It was another app, and they were comparing prices using it on. I forget what the product was, and they had to pick it up at the store, and they almost drove, and they were just like, let me double check this price on, I think it was maybe Walmart, and no, that pricing was not correct. And I'm curious about, you know, hallucinations and other poor data feeds, and how that might impact sort of customer service and just, you know, the people that are taking that information to go do something in the physical world, make a purchase. So that's really a statement more than a question, but I'm curious, it lends itself to, you know, how you all are thinking about, and you as well, like making sure you're sending your customers, because you refer your customers back to a retailer,
Yeah.
right? So how you're thinking about getting the best data, which real-time product data has kind of been a challenge for a long time, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know, Dmitry.
Yeah. Well, this goes back to why accuracy is so important, and in certain cases, you have to work directly with the merchant retailer. You know, we work closely with Gap. We have a great partnership with PayPal, where they're helping aggregate a lot of that information in real time. And yeah, if the answer has some inaccurate bit of information, all of the downstream agentic utility becomes moot. So without that building block, you know, you can't create amazing experiences.
I'm going to try to squeeze in two quick ones. One is, you know, we haven't really talked about shopping agents, where, you know, in the sense that you're going to totally hand over, you know, maybe part of the purchase decision and then the actual purchase. Like, where do you see that actually happening and not happening? Because there's a lot of hype around it today, and I think it's not going to be an across the board every product category thing. So curious for any quick thoughts on that. Maybe one category that it might make sense for. Anyone?
Well, certainly I think things you've bought before, kind of, you know, seamlessly reordering it is a great use case for AI, where you don't need, you know, the friction of 20 clicks. And if you know exactly what you want and you just want to issue a command, our AI browser comment is great for this. That's where we see a lot of value there.
Yeah, I mean, we agree. I think AI today is helping scale the Tide button, right? That never really made it, where you can hit the button and get your detergent shipped to you. I mean, it's those kinds of things that are relevant. I don't see really in the near future find me a blue shirt and blue pants, and just kind of do it. I think brand, product, trend, relevance is all way too important still for that.
Julie, any final thoughts there?
Well, we have some cool things coming up with Apple and Siri that allow you to use voice to sort of pull things up that you might be interested in. I think for the actual part of checkout, I would argue that that's not sort of the problem so much. And I think one of the things is that if you find something you love from the Gap on Daydream, then you click over and you start shopping on Gap, you oftentimes will add other things to your basket. And so the idea of having agentic checkout right there and then could limit the basket size. And so I think there's a lot to be tested with it and see.
I do have one last quick one, and Dmitry, I'm sorry, but we got to end. We're going to end here. You know, a lot of what you're doing at Perplexity is going around and searching for the best answers. Amazon has sued you all for, you know, they're alleging accessing, you know, their data when you shouldn't be, or they've put up blockers there. I'm curious what you think about the biggest player in the space alleging that.
Yeah, so we service our users, and so we don't take action unless a user, you know, wants to do something in our comment browser. And it's of course Amazon that really, you know, pioneered an ethos around being obsessed with customers and doing what's best for customers. And so we're certainly following in their footsteps. I think in terms of the specific situation with them, it's useful to think about an analogy. Let's kind of imagine a brick and mortar scenario where you're looking to buy a fridge, and you've got a great friend that's an expert on fridges, and he's your go-to resource, and he goes with you to the store. And as you're about to enter the store staff say, oh, no, your friend can't come with you. Like, we don't want you to be able to consult him as you're making this decision. And ultimately, like, our view is that AI is a powerful tool for users. We don't think people should be not able to access information that's relevant to a purchase they're about to make. And we're going to keep building products and fight for that.
All right, I'll follow that lawsuit. Thank you all.
Thank you.